So let's just jump right in. Imagine this. What if a core security feature, the digital guard that's supposed to be protecting millions of Linux systems, actually had a hidden backdoor? And I'm not talking about for a month or even a year. We're talking about almost a decade. Yeah, today we're digging into a really nasty vulnerability called CrackArmor.
And when I say millions, I'm not exaggerating. The initial number from Qualys is just staggering. Over 12.6 million enterprise Linux systems were running with this flaw enabled right out of the box. And that's just the starting point, the minimum number we're dealing with here.
So here's the bottom line. You've got this critical vulnerability that's just been sitting there, dormant, inside of AppArmor, which is, by the way, one of the most important security modules in Linux. And it's been there since 2017. And the scary part? It lets any local user, someone with zero special privileges, completely take over the entire machine.
So how in the world did this even happen? Well, to get the full picture, we've got to go back a bit. Let's dig into the history of this thing in our first section, which we're calling A Decade-Old Crack.
And wow, this timeline, it really puts things into perspective, doesn't it? So AppArmor gets integrated into the Linux kernel way back in 2010. All good. But then in 2017, this CrackArmor flaw gets introduced completely by accident. And then it just sits there, totally undetected, until it's finally discovered in 2026. Think about that. That is a 9-year window of exposure.
Okay, so we keep talking about AppArmor being compromised, but what exactly is it, and why is this such a big deal? That brings us right to Section 2, the digital gatekeeper.
The easiest way to think about AppArmor is like a really strict digital bouncer for every single app on your system. It's what's known as a mandatory access control framework, which is a fancy way of saying it puts each program into its own little security sandbox and enforces a super strict set of rules, telling them exactly what they can and cannot do. It's basically a foundational piece of the puzzle for modern Linux security.
And get this isn't some obscure tool you have to go out of your way to install. Nope, it's enabled by default in huge distributions like Ubuntu, Debian, and SUSE. So what does that mean? It means it's running on countless cloud servers. It's a critical part of Kubernetes security, and you'll even find it on IoT and edge classes. I mean, it is literally everywhere.
So if this digital bouncer is everywhere, how does an attacker get past it? Well, they don't use brute force. They don't try to kick down the door. They're much smarter than that. They trick the bouncer into opening the door for them. And that brings us to Section 3, the master key trick.
Okay, so technically what we're looking at here is a classic confused deputy flaw. It's a well-known type of security hole, and the idea is pretty simple. You have a program with a ton of power. That's your deputy, and it gets tricked by a much less powerful program into doing something it shouldn't.
This next part is a brilliant analogy for it. Imagine a thief who can't pick the lock on a bank vault. So what do? They go find the building manager, the one person with the master keys, and convince them to unlock the vault for them. See, the attacker is using the power of a trusted person against the very system they're supposed to protect.
So in our digital world, the building managers with the master keys are powerful, trusted tools like Sudo or Postfix. The attacker is just a regular, unprivileged user, but they trick these powerful tools into changing the AppArmor security rules, the very rules designed to keep them out. They're essentially disabling their own security from the inside out.
Okay, so the intruder has tricked the manager. They're inside the vault. Now what? What can they actually do with this access? Well, this is where it gets really bad. Let's look at the consequences in Section 4, from flaw to full control. The impact here is just devastating. Seriously. An attacker can start small, bypassing security policies to turn off protections for critical services. They can even cause a kernel panic and just crash the whole system. But the real prize? Privilege escalation, becoming the root user, the god mode of the system. And if you're in the cloud, they can pull off a container breakout, escaping their little sandbox and attacking the main host system itself. And look at how frighteningly simple this path to total control is. It's just 3 steps. Step 1, a normal user messes with an AppArmor profile. Step 2, they trick a powerful root process, like sudo, into applying that malicious profile. And step 3, boom, that's it. They have full admin control. They go from 0 to hero in the worst possible way.
This right here, this just completely shatters a fundamental promise of modern cloud security. We build everything on the idea that containers are isolated, that they're safe sandboxes. But CrackArmor just blows that whole idea up.
It lets an attacker completely collapse that isolation and take over the whole host machine.
Okay, so the threat is crystal clear, it's everywhere, and it's been hiding in plain sight for years. So the big question is, what do we do about it? Let's get straight to the point in our final section, the non-negotiable fix.
And let me be absolutely clear on this. There's no fancy workaround, no clever mitigation strategy. It's simple. The only real solution is to patch your systems. Period. Immediate kernel patching is the #1 non-negotiable priority for every single machine that's affected.
So here's your action plan. It's a 3-step process. Step 1, and I can't say this enough, patch. Immediately, go get the security updates from your vendor and apply them. Step 2, scan. You have to find every single vulnerable machine in your environment. And step 3, monitor. Start keeping a close eye on your AppArmor profiles for any changes that look weird or unexpected. Now, some of you who are really in the weeds on this stuff might have noticed there isn't a CVE number for this yet. And the folks at Qualys have a really important warning about that. They say, look, don't let the lack of a CVE number make you think this is any less serious. The threat is absolutely real, and the need to patch is just as urgent. You know, at the end of the day, this whole incident teaches us a much bigger lesson. Dilip Bachwani, who's the CTO at Qualys, he really hit the nail on the head. He said this isn't just about this one patch. This is a wake-up call for us to re-examine how much we trust our default security settings. Just because something is turned on by default doesn't mean it's going to be secure forever. And really, that's what I want to leave you with. That's the final critical question here. We just saw how CrackArmor took advantage of a trusted default setting that was just humming along quietly on millions of systems. It really forces all of us to look in the mirror and ask, when was the last time you really truly questioned your default security settings?